This is where business ideas and passions turn into profit. Napkin ideas are no longer tucked away in drawers, and women around the globe are turning their hobbies into million-dollar businesses. Welcome to Million Dollar Hobbies. Here's your host, world-renowned jewelry designer and Shop HQ celebrity, Victoria Wick.
Welcome to another episode of the Million Dollar Hobbies. You're not going to believe this, but today I have an amazing guest. I think he's an extremely well-rounded person, a lot of compassion, tons of creativity, and he has so much to offer. So I had to kind of figure out, how we do our show today. So, without further ado, let me introduce you, Mr. David Trotter, who is the founder of Rise Up Creatives. And he's also the host of Inspirational Rising podcast with 185 episodes, which is huge. I mean, a lot of podcasts, that are starting out, they just have like 10, 20, 30 episodes. So the point I'm trying to make is that 185 episodes means he has invested so much time and effort in educating people, bringing you content that's really relevant and, something that obviously, his listeners subscribe to and embrace. So give that podcast a shout and also just give it a listen, because you're going to find just amazing wisdom and, not just from him, but all his guests and so forth. So check that out as well. And lastly, I just want to also explain that Dave actually was a pastor for many years. I think it was over 10 years he was a pastor, and then went on to create a social media marketing agency. And I'm assuming, and I haven't asked him this yet, but I'm assuming that all of the experience he's had, raising money for nonprofits, and I try to raise money for churches. That's a really tough job, I got to tell you right now. So he is going to share a little bit about the social media aspect of this as well. And then we're going to kind of stumble onto, what it takes, the mindset. The whole end goal for all of us is to, whatever we choose to do to make a living, whether it is raising money for churches or creating social media, we want to end up happy, wealthy, successful human beings that we want to be proud of, that our families could be proud of. So without further ado, welcome, Dave, to the Million Dollar Hobby Show.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's great to meet you and great to be with you.
Thank you. So I don't even know where to begin, because I'm looking at your bio and it's not a huge, long bio, but I have to tell you that there are just a few things that really kind of pop out. One of them is that you've pretty much dedicated your professional career helping women entrepreneurs. And I think that is, first of all, my hat's off to you, because, we all know that there has been a very thick glass ceiling for women, and especially women entrepreneurs, for quite some time, not just here, but globally. And I can remember when I used to be, I was one of the first generation of women who worked in a managerial capacity. And a lot of the men that we worked side by side with, they didn't really like that. So, and they were kind of vocal about that too. So, I just wanted to point that out, and we're going to talk about that a little bit and how you dedicated your life to that. And then secondly, we want to talk a little bit about, helping small businesses cope with the social media, the good and the bad. So tell us, why do you think that you were so attracted to helping women entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, in late 2018, I had just finished my fourth film, and I had kind of fallen into filmmaking because I wanted to draw attention to certain social justice issues in the world. My first film was on orphans in India. It was on Netflix for 2 years. Then I did a documentary on sex trafficking in the United States and featured 6 female entrepreneurs around I should say 6 female abolitionists who were aware of the issue of trafficking around the United States, and they opened up aftercare homes. Wow. And so I just finished my fourth film in late 2018, and I told my wife I really wanted to be making a difference on more of a day-to-day basis rather than year-to-year basis through these films, because they take so long to raise money, produce, direct, get it out in the marketplace. And so we talked about me moving more in the business consulting direction because of my entrepreneurial background. As a pastor, people don't realize this, but when you start a church with a dozen people and you're just trying to get it off the ground, it is extremely entrepreneurial, Victoria. You have to use all of these resources to thinking about, you don't say marketing, but it's, it is marketing, how do you,
Yeah.
you're putting on a big event every single Sunday, HR, you're recruiting people to be a part of it, volunteerism, money, all of it. So it's very entrepreneurial. And of course, I had spent over a dozen years having my own marketing business. So I said to my wife, I think I want to move more toward business consulting and podcasting. And so she said, well, who would be the group of people that you would want to serve? And so in looking back over 25 years of ministry and marketing and movies, the group that most resonated with my work and that I felt like I had the most connection with were primarily women and kind of the 30 to 60 year age range. And so we started Inspiration Rising, the podcast, in early 2019. We actually now have, I think, almost 220 episodes out, and it features female entrepreneurs almost exclusively, and me. And I have the privilege of, showcasing their incredible talent, their work, and helping pull out their wisdom so that other people can be inspired by it and grow from it and take action from whatever they learn on the podcast. And then, of course, I have a business academy where I call them soul inspired coaches and entrepreneurs to get started in their business, because, it's not just particularly women that I like working with and helping start their business, but it's women who are soul inspired. There's something that's heart driven about them. They're not just out to make a buck, but they're wanting to do something good through their business. And so I will tell you, one of the reasons that I think why I kind of fell into this is I actually grew up in a rather conservative Christian environment where women were not seen as, well, they couldn't be leaders in the church at a certain level. And oftentimes they were more defined by certain roles that they would play that were more helping roles. And so as I went through college and seminary and had a church of my own, and I hired female pastors, I started realizing, wow, I'm not the guy who's going to be out championing like bringing attention to the Me Too movement or something like that. But I do feel like I'm the person who's going to come alongside people and cheer them on and bring out the best in them and just do whatever I can to help. And so it just seems to be the thread that runs through my life, and I enjoy it.
It's interesting. I think that what I'm hearing from you also is why you resonate with, women entrepreneurs. And I think you've touched on 2 points that's close to my heart. One of them is that if you don't have your heart in something, if you don't give your all, and if you don't have a passion for it and you're just chasing money, I think that's just, it's a matter of when your business goes bankrupt. It's not if, because, you're going to run out of steam. You have very long days and you don't have anything to really sustain you, especially for those people who actually don't even have any faith in themselves or the community. I think it's very, because we know life happens, and what that means is you're going to run into, detours, landmines, unplanned, things that happen to you and to your business. So if you don't have passion for something and you're just chasing money, I think that is a disaster waiting to happen. Mm-hmm. So, and you find that a lot of women actually won't start a business unless they see something they can connect with. That I find to be very different between men and women starting their businesses. And the other thing I think too is, this show isn't about, what's wrong with men or why women are superior, but I think when it comes to business, there's a lot of hidden facts about female business people. And I think one of them is that women are simply much more open-minded. And I think they're much more open-minded. If you tell them I'm going to do, X, Y, Z, and somebody comes and says, well, have you tried doing, OQNL? And, a lot of men would say, no, we have a plan doing this. And, this has worked for all these other people and it's worked for me in the last 10 years. So we're going to do it this way. But women might go, I never heard of that OPNL. What's that about? So I think that they're a little bit more open-minded. I'm not, in many instances they are. And I think lastly, they're much better at multitasking, because if you think about even in a traditional church role, I've been kind of going to church since regularly every Sunday, that I'm home, or even when I'm not home, I'll try to find one if it happens on a Sunday. But if you look at how churches are organized, the people that are actually doing the grunt work, 80% of them are women.
100%. Absolutely.
Just 20 women that make the whole thing go around, really.
That's right. That's very true.
You can count on them just putting things together. So I think that those are all sort of key ingredients for successful entrepreneurship. They just kind of need to know, have a little bit more direction, and when they're, so I think that I hear you on why women. Now, I love men. I have I had a father who's not with us anymore. I have a husband, I've got a son, I've got, brothers, and, they're great people too, but I just think that there are some subtle differences on that. And I think you picked up on that one. And then when it comes to mindset, do you think that, obviously, even no matter, your social status, education level, or the type of business you're in, you are going to run into obstacles by way of, the most obvious one is funding, right? Like, there's always never enough money to do all your, marketing and everything else, or hiring top-notch talent, but also mindset in terms of running into roadblocks with your customers, the vendors, everyone else. So do you think that, do you coach this in your Rise Up Creatives or any of your programs about overcoming those types of, mindset issues? And
Yeah.
if so, what are some of the top 2 tips that you would give?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, in the Rise Up Business Academy, one of the very first things that we begin with is, first of all, your identity. Because if someone doesn't have a strong personal identity, those challenges that you're talking about could knock them down. And so one of the things that we start off with at the very beginning, Victoria, is that our identity isn't based in all the externals of life. If we want to be a strong business person, all those externals are beautiful. They're fun, they're playful, they're enjoyable, but they also can be here today and gone tomorrow. That could be the case because of challenges in relationships. A relationship, you could base your whole identity around being a mom or a wife or whatever, and then that changes, and that can be so painful. So we say, what would it look like for you to create a strong identity around the fact that you're inspired, the fact that you're enough, and the fact that you're loved? So you're inspired. The Latin word for inspire means to be breathed into life by the divine. There's this sense of being breathed into life. And so to be inspired isn't a feeling. I teach people it's a fact that you have been breathed into life by the divine, and you have value in and of itself. Just you have value as a human being. The second is that you're enough. You're whole and complete. You don't need to do or be anything else to be complete. You are enough. And the third is you're loved. You're loved by the divine. You're loved by God. You're loved by your family and friends. They may not do it perfectly, but they're loved, right? They love you. So what's interesting about these 3 qualities, that if we are able to embrace these 3 things as our true identity, it actually takes care of 3 of the biggest challenges that most entrepreneurs face in terms of their mindset. Am I valuable? Is what I'm doing valuable? Am I valuable as a human being, right? Now, we're not talking about skills here. We're differentiating between skills and identity, because we can always be growing and learning in terms of skills. Right. We can always be pivoting in terms of, is my product valuable to the marketplace? But am I valuable as an individual? 100%. Am I enough? I mean, so many of my clients wrestle with, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not creative enough, right? Okay, well, wait. Let's tease out the difference between your identity of being enough and your skills. We're always learning and growing, but you, Victoria, you are enough. You don't have to do or be anything else to be enough. You are whole and complete. That creates a sense of strength, shoulders back, head high. And then the third is you're loved, right? Well, those are the 3 things that most human beings struggle with. So if I can help them embrace that as their true identity, all of a sudden there's a mindset shift. Right? It goes, I can always be learning and growing, but in terms of my identity, I put my identity in these things. My identity is not in that I'm just a mom, or that I'm a wife, or that I'm an entrepreneur, or that I have a certain car, or wear certain clothes, because all those things can change. All those things are good. I'm not saying they're bad, they're good. But the foundation of your identity, you're inspired, you're enough, and you're loved.
Well, so I completely agree with you on that. I come from a culture where, that your identity, they're very big into like destiny, like what you were born to accomplish in life and all, which I completely don't agree with 100% there either. But how do you work with someone who actually has been conditioned for so long that they're not good enough? So they come to, the worldview and to life, everything they tackle in life with the idea that I'm not good enough, that I'm not loved unless I do, unless I get a new car or unless I do something.
Right.
Or that unless I get something really sleek or, some niche or something that I have, that no matter what I do in my business world, I'm not going to succeed. So, these currents, as you know, are very strong. If somebody comes into that, they're very, very strong. So how do you, what are the tips you give to someone? I mean, is there like a daily exercise, or is there, some framework that you give to help those people that really have a problem, even understanding like what my identity is, or how do I actually improve upon it? Because if you don't even have a foundation, or base,
Right.
You don't know. I mean, some
Yeah.
people just have a tough time differentiating your identity without all the toys and everything else. Like, how do you help them with that?
So the number one way that most people learn,
Mm-hmm.
this is not fun, Victoria. It's not fun. It's called pain.
Now you tell me.
It's
Yeah.
pain.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
That is the number one way that people learn. So yes, I can teach you a technique in terms of like helping you with your mindset. But the number one way that people learn, including me, is generally having some sort of rock bottom experience.
Okay.
And that rock bottom experience can come at all different ages. And maybe we have to hit that rock bottom experience in multiple times, but it could be a spouse or a partner or a kid looking you in the eye and saying, you're a workaholic. You're a workaholic and I never see you. And I'm not connected to your heart because you're so focused on your business because you're trying to prove yourself through your business. You're trying to prove yourself through all these exterior things. It could be a kid looking you in the eye and saying, you've given me all the cars, all the clothes, all the vacations, but you haven't given me your heart. Like I'm not loved by you, right? Those are rock bottom experiences where we have to come to grips with. And it's in that rock bottom experience where we have a breaking of our heart and we have the opportunity to look within and go, okay, what's going on inside? And the only way that can truly be changed is by some sort of transformational healing process. There has to be healing because what we're talking about is deep woundedness. There's some sort of wound that's holding us back from seeing ourselves as valued, as enough, and as loved. And that wound most likely has come through a home of origin path, right? Our family, our friends, our culture, whatever it might be. So the number one is
self-destruction.
Self-destruction. So that's part of the pain. Right. So a lot of people do self-destruct because they're trying to find that identity in, and it usually can turn into over shopping, overeating, overworking out, over gambling, over drinking, drugs, all those things. Those are all coping mechanisms when we don't feel like we're enough. And so usually that rock bottom experience is where we can have that opportunity to experience healing. In the process, though, what I teach my clients to do is, first of all, listen, slow down your thinking, because there are thoughts that are flowing through your head that are lies. I call them lies. Some people call them limiting beliefs. They're lies about you, about other people, about the divine, about God, about the world in general. And there are lies that you are believing. And we think so fast that sometimes we don't even realize they're lies because we've heard them so often. It actually is not a lie anymore. It's become a belief about our life. So if we slow down,
you justify.
We justify it.
Yeah.
We rationalize. So if we slow down our thinking, or if we have somebody else, a coach or a consultant or a therapist, come alongside of us and say, did you notice that you have a belief that you need to work 7 days a week in order to be successful?
Yeah.
Well, no, I have to. Okay, well, yeah, but that's a belief. Could it be, is it possible that that's a lie that you're believing that's causing you self-destruction? And the underlying lie of working 7 days a week could be that I'll never be enough, right? I'll never be enough. So if that's the lie, what's the truth? What's the truth that would move you more toward more freedom, more health, more peace in your life? Well, it's not just that I am enough, but it could be I'm whole and complete. I don't have to do or be anything else in order to be enough. Okay, that's the truth.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I think one of the biggest lies, and I'm not saying that people are intentionally lying, but it's not the truth, which is the way I can be a really great parent or the way I could be a great spouse is to go out and make as much money as I can and provide for them. And because I'm doing that, I could work 7 days a week, 15-hour days, And even when I'm present at home, I go to the yard and where I'm emailing, I actually know people like this. That's why it's easy for me to put this out. But now this is a perfect time for us to segment into social media, because I think that social media, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. If you're running a business, you can't escape it. I mean, people expect you to be there with the right kind of content for the right reasons, for the right amount of time. But what I see in social media is all the lies. A lot of lies about, fancy cars, fancy restaurants. I'm having the $15 coffee to, whatever. So a lot of those, the destructive part of life now becomes kind of public in your social media. And that's why I don't really like it, because when I'm a normal person and I actually just post, I love my dog, and basically my dog is doing something cute, it just that doesn't seem like it even fits anymore, because that's so normal. Whereas it's just like much more grandiose things. It's like the compete and compare game that's on there. So I have a feeling that you are a social media expert. You did run a social media marketing digital agency for 12 years. So how do we balance, the content that the valuable content we need to offer to our customers and clients and potential clients, because that has to do with your brand positioning, and also making it fun and effective, so you don't have to be so over consumed. It doesn't have to be all consuming, time consuming event when you're trying to have a presence in social media. So do you have any wisdom with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, we want to differentiate between your brand social media and maybe your personal brand, like you as just an individual. And sometimes those are collapsed. Those are the same individual. For a lot of the clients that I work with, they only have just one social media account and it's there. So you kind of have to differentiate that. First of all, who is your ideal client? Who's your dream client? What are they wanting to learn from you? What's going to be most helpful? So if you are trying to go after a high net worth client, showing high net worth things would make sense. But if that's not your ideal client, then you have to ask yourself, why would you be posting those types of things?
Well, let's go back for one sec. Do you think that if you're a high net worth client, your ideal audience is high net worth client, do you think that they're necessarily actually even on social media?
Well, my high net worth clients that I work with, they tend to avoid it. Yeah, they tend to avoid it. And even if they, like, for instance, I just have a client who's in Beverly Hills and they just got a yacht last week. And so they didn't they're not posting a picture of the yacht. You know what I mean? Exactly. They're posting a picture of their dog and them, and I can kind of see the yacht and the water in the background.
Yeah.
But it's not the yacht, right? You know what I mean? Because they have no need to brag. They have no need to put that out there. So
hiding their wealth. I mean, the real wealthy, they're almost hiding. And, like normal people, like I work with a lot of people that are, $500 million and up. And those people actually don't want anyone to know where they live,
right,
what they have, and how they live. They really don't want it. So I think that when you're a high net worth person, they're not on social media. That is not where your conversion rates are coming from.
Correct. And so most of the people, if they are trying to show off some sort of lifestyle, I would generally say that they are going after a dream client that is more, it's an aspirational lifestyle. So they're creating a mood where they've got the Gucci bag or the, YSL, whatever, they're trying to just create that persona. And those are not the people that I work with, right? That's more that feels more empty to me. That doesn't resonate with me. I'm more wanting to work with people that are saying, who's my dream client? How can I help those people? How can I serve those people? And so what would it look like that when I post something on social media, it is here to serve people? So a lot of the women that I work with, they will first say, I don't want to post on social media because it's exactly what you just described. They would describe that. And I would tell them, I go, well, it depends on who you're following. Because if you're following that type of person, that's who you're going to see. But I don't personally see, like the thing that you described, Victoria, where people are showing off their cars or whatever. I don't see that because I don't follow those types of people. So it really is you find what you're looking for. So all the people that I follow are very soul inspired. They're very much more spiritual. They're looking to make a difference in the world. And so you can be that person. You can fully represent yourself online. I just did a podcast this past week on the 3 things that people need to show on social media as they're getting started in business. I said, you need to show your face, you need to show your personality, and you need to show your heart. That's what people want to see. People love seeing other people's faces. If you're not willing to show your face, it's kind of like putting a bag over your head and trying to get people to remember you. Like, people want to see your face. Your face is the best logo you could ever have in your business because people remember your face and are drawn to it.
Right. So your face and your, what was the second thing? And
personality.
Personality and the heart. Okay. So that makes sense. Now, how would you go about doing this in a very consistent manner, time effective way? So would you, like what I do with my social media, I have a editorial calendar. And, I have a routine. So every Monday I post like a motivational quote, and I try to go for something that not a lot of people know about, something that is so that it will get their attention, but it's relevant to them. And so I do the motivational Monday to get my week going. I don't do anything on Tuesday, and I'll post something on Wednesday, something that has happened or relevant, or, if I'm launching a new thing or I experienced something new in the relevant category, that's what I would do. And then Fridays usually is like Fun Friday, anything goes. So that's where I would have my family, the dog. And then Saturday and Sunday, it's not a routine where I'm actually posting, but I actually have like the Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing. So at least that gives me a way to organize my, my content, but
yes.
also, and time wise. And also I think it gives my followers something to look forward to. If they're looking for inspiration, like a Monday morning blues, and they want something that kind of reminds them why that week's going to be exciting, that they could check my Monday morning post. They're not looking for any, cars or anything like that at that time. So do you think that that's something that you recommend, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Our clients inside Rise Up Creatives, we provide them with a social media planning calendar every single month, both as a PDF that they can download and as a digital Google document that they can fill out online. And we train them on how to plan an entire month of social media ahead of time, because we provide our clients with 31 customizable captions every single month and 31 lifestyle images. So oftentimes our clients will post an image of them on one day, and then more of a lifestyle image that's a stock image the next day, and then another image of them the next day. And all of our caption templates are fit into 7 different categories. Okay, we have found that there are 7 top categories that are really converting well to build know, like, and trust. Victoria, if somebody's going to convert, they're going to buy from you. They want to know you, like you, and trust you. So those 7 categories are my life, my why, all right, life and business learnings, behind the scenes. Let's see, my life, my why, I forgot the one, and then your actual product and service, and then your benefits, right? So I want to know something about your life, Victoria, if I'm going to know, like, and trust you. I want to know something about your why. Why are you in business? What are you doing? That. I want to see something that's kind of behind the scenes in your business. I want to know a life or business learning, something that's going on that you've learned so that I could learn from you. Obviously, I want to learn about your products and service. And then I want to learn about benefits to you. So these categories, we actually help people not just post them 1 through 7 and 7 days a week, but we strategically place them throughout the month. And the first thing that we ask people to do in thinking about their month is, when are you going to launch something? When are you launching a new lead magnet, a new product, a new podcast episode? Because you're going to want to put that on the calendar first. Everything revolves around when you're launching a product or service, or whether it's free or something. And then you can put things that help build up to that are on the similar theme. So if you were, for instance, doing a new piece of jewelry that you're launching, well, you could be talking about that piece of jewelry all the week before, preparing for it. And so people are looking and watching and waiting and excited for that coming on that Thursday or Friday. And you're building everything around your launch schedule.
So, okay. So what I took away from what you just said, it's really interesting, because what you just said is like, don't just go and post because you have to post. Because, a lot of people small business, people are like running out of time. They're doing 20 things. They're wearing, multiple hats. They're like the chief of everything in their company. And then they're like, oh, there's social media, I need to post, and they'll just post something, and they're looking for content at that time. Oh, maybe I can take a picture of.
Gotta plan ahead. Gotta plan ahead.
So what you're saying is have an editorial calendar, have a plan of action, and only like 3 or 4 things, that on your calendar are absolute top priority, and everything else kind of supports it. So it's kind of like when you're producing a movie or a live TV show, you have your main storyline and everything else kind of supports that. So I think that's a really good takeaway there, because that organizes your thoughts. And I agree with you that if you're launching something, the pre-launch phase, to me, that's actually more important than the launch day, because the launch, you have to almost look at it as a process, not as an event, that happens on one day and then you're done. I mean, it's like a job interview. You need to prepare for that, then show up, perform, and then you got to follow up, and do all that. So I think, using social media in that way, I think is very smart. So I didn't get, obviously we don't have, I think that every one of the 7, tips or 7, the most popular categories that they've talked about could be an hour show by itself, which we're not going to go into. So you can go check out the riseupcreatives.com for more information on that. And I think that if you can get templates and, editorial calendars, a proven system, thinking about like your why, your lifestyle, those are not in dispute. I mean, those categories actually do work. So if somebody can actually make that really easier for you, I would go ahead and, check that out. Now, lastly, as we come to a close on to this episode, I really like your whole journey, the transformation of your own life, and how that's impacting other entrepreneurs. Because what I see, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I myself, went from a penniless immigrant to a successful business owner. And that journey is, I never actually, when I started my company, I just wanted to spend more time with my family. When my parents immigrated here, they each had to have 2 jobs at a minimum. Sometimes they had 3 jobs. And they didn't speak English, had no friends, and, life was pretty tough. So they kind of left us alone to fend for ourselves. And they trusted that we would somehow could survive that time. I was only like 13 years old. And so, when I grew up and I had jobs and I realized, oh my gosh, like I'm going to do the same thing to my kids that my parents did, only I'm now chasing like dollars of my choice. I was, I chose to keep getting higher and higher in the corporate hierarchy for more pay, which required more hours. And I thought, with this trajectory, I'm going to end up having nannies or other people take care of my kids. And while I'm out there chasing the dollars, it's a different scale, but I was doing that in my mind out of choice. So when I left the corporate world, I was willing to take a pay cut, and I was willing to work, like just for $3,000 a month. But the important thing for me at that time was I needed to work less than 20 hours a week so I could spend time with my family. So I stuck to that. I stuck to my game plan, my life plan. And, I'm happy to say that going from 0 to $500 million in retail sales, all of my own brand, that I think I am a better person today than when I first started my business, because of all of the stuff that went wrong with my business. I got screwed over by a manufacturer who took my samples and gave it to all my competitors because he thought he would get more orders from them because they already had a pipeline to just all kinds of stuff that I actually wrote a whole book about this. But each time something horrible happened, where I was facing bankruptcies, like straight in front of my face, after I've given my heart and soul, like literally, there were so many times I sat there and thought to myself, okay, like seriously, what happened? I always go back to, now I would say, Dave, anything that happens to me now, my first question is, so where is the gift in this?
Yeah.
Because all of those events ended up, because the way I handled it, and I'm not saying I handled it any better than any other human being, but I didn't actually have choices to handle it. Sometimes the choices were like yes or no. And, yes is you have a slim chance and no is death.
Mm.
So I kind of survived that. But now my question is like, where's a gift? Because I choose to see it as a gift. So I think that with your journey, here you were a pastor, were very good at that. You then go out and do, raising funds. I agree with you. Raising money for churches are just incredible, because I've been involved in doing all kinds of stuff for my church. And the worst thing about churches is like when you call, they already know you're asking for money, so they just like, oh, you're already looking at excuses. And to be fair, we are asking a lot of our congregation, the same congregation members, for more and more and more money. So I think that with your journey of going from a pastor to, because not too many pastors actually make that transition from pastorship, clergy, to a successful business owner, to a filmmaker, to everything else, so you have evolved, but you haven't changed as a person. And I think that our end goal for all of us is that as entrepreneurs, we want to gain that emotional freedom. We want to get financial freedom so that we could do great things for other people as well. But I think it's important to make sure that all of us who do make it in the end, to keep that original goal in mind, because I've seen too many people that have made it financially, but they paid a price. They got divorced 4 times. Their kids actually won't even talk to them anymore. They don't even know who they are. And that's really sad and tragic. So what words of wisdom do you have about literally achieving all of our ultimate goals in life, which is to be a better parent, better husband, better spouse, better partner, better employee, better employer, and just a great human citizen, of humanity?
So I'll oftentimes take clients through a meditation where we begin with their memorial service. And when I was a pastor, I loved doing funerals, because you are there at the crux of this life moment where you want to avoid it, but you can't avoid it. But it causes you to ask questions about, what are my values and how do I want to live? So I take them on a meditation to their own memorial service, and we say, who's there? What are the people? What are they saying about you? What's written on your tombstone? What's the epitaph? What do you want that to, and sometimes people will say, wow, I wanted it to be this, but in the meditation, it was actually this. And I felt scared and sad, and right. And then I take them back in time to the month before their memorial service. And I have them lying on a bed, and I go, who's surrounding you on that bed in your last moments of life, when you're just kind of, your body is, beginning to shut down? Who's there? And what are they saying to you in that last moment? Right. And do you have any regrets on how you've lived? And is there anything that you would like to do differently? And so then we continue to take steps back in their life and go, all right, so based on what you saw, did you like that or did you not? What do you want your optimal end of life scenario to be? What do you want people to say at your memorial? What do you want to happen at the end of how do you live your life now to get to that point? What are the things that you would have to put in place now? And not hoping that, well, my kids will be able to figure it out and I'll reconcile with them when I'm 60, and, they'll be able to forgive me for never being around, or, whatever. It's like, I wouldn't count on that. Like, don't count on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. That's such a powerful, that's very powerful. And I think that we should all actually think about our memorial service, like you said, because that would actually deconstruct a lot of our actions. So listen, thank you so much for coming by. How can people find you? And, because I'm sure that most of my listeners would want to follow up on this, on both the social media part of it, as well as the memorial service that you want us to all go on. I think that's really, really important. And everything else. How can they find you?
Well, people can listen to the Inspiration Rising podcast on any of the podcast apps. You can also go to our website, which is insporising.com. And on that page, you can find out all about Rise Up Business Academy, Rise Up Creatives, and all the things. So insporising.com would be the best place.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And if that's the end of our episode here. And for all of you listening, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. And if you can share and rate and review this show, that I would be very grateful. And until next time, stay healthy and happy. And remember, happiness is a choice. And until next time, bye-bye.
You've been listening to $1 Million Hobbies, where we turn dreams into reality and passion into profit. According to ancient Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Congratulations on taking that first step today. For more information on how Victoria can help you turn your hobby into $1 million and to download Victoria's free ebook on passion-based business ideas, visit $1milliondollarhobbies.com. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player.